Well, in this video, you're going to find out that God speaks. He knows more about business, marketing, and branding than Seth Godin, Neil Patel, and Marie Forleo combined. And there'll be proof that I'm not just making this up. So when I got the idea to start Thåsity, my wife helped me create a brand board to get a visual sense of the website, what it might be like, and the brand as a whole. Her strategy? Let's just ask God to show us. Now, as we asked God about the brand, we realized there were a lot of mountains, aspen trees, pine trees, deep slate colors, icy blue hues. And as I looked through the board and immersed myself kind of in this imagery that was arising, a calm peace washed through me, the kind of peace that comes on a cool, crisp winter morning, sitting in a cabin on top of a snowy mountain peak, overlooking the valley, maybe sipping a cup of coffee, reading my Bible on a private little retreat with just me and God. There was a visceral sense of the stillness of God's presence, the crispness of his peace, the refreshment of his spirit. And this is what good brands do. They have a clear pathos. That's a Greek word which means an element of an experience or an artistic representation that evokes compassion. Good branding evokes compassion and even shows mercy. It meets potential clients where they're at, touching the place beyond where words can reach them, and connects those clients to where they hope to be or where you will be leading them should they decide to work with you. Now, part of that is the colors and fonts and imagery of a brand, and all those things convey an emotional response that speaks to the depths of a person. And in Genesis 1, God spoke over the deep and mountains came into being. Those mountains that we all know and love evoke a response in the human heart that actually reveals something of the depth of God's heart that was behind his original speaking. Now, if a person reads the word mountain on a page or a screen without ever experiencing a mountain in real life, that text itself does not carry the same weight as actually seeing and experiencing or viewing, climbing and interacting with the actual mountain in actual reality. And this is why it's important to seek the living God for what he is doing in your life and through your business, and then to reflect that in your business and branding rather than simply having a good opportunity for profit or creating a brand because, wow, these fonts look so pretty together. Because when your clients or customers experience reality as a result of interacting with you and your business, that's going to sustain a far more enduring business relationship than you selling them something unreal and unnecessary, even if you think it's real or necessary. It's like when a brand exists only in appearances and is not a reflection of reality, there's a root of vanity bearing a fruit of hypocrisy in the marketplace and planting betrayal in the lives of customers. You're saying one thing about your brand or your business or whatever.
Oh, it's such a good idea. You totally need it in your life. Here's my 10-step reasons why you should buy, and I'm going to sell you on this, and yeah, close the sale.
But then they buy and their experience of what you sold them doesn't necessarily match up with reality, even if it seems at first that it does. And then the result of that is a sense of betrayal. And I don't know about you, I don't think anybody likes being betrayed. However, when a brand reflects reality, there is a root of truth that bears fruits of trust in the marketplace, and that bears wholeness in the lives of your customers. What you say and the way you say it matches the reality of who you are, what your business is, what you're selling them, and that produces trust and wholeness. So my job with Telosity, me and my wife's job with Telosity was not to fabricate or invent the brand. We were here to discover what Telosity is. And so as I built out this brand and fonts and colors and all that stuff, I began realizing that Telosity is actually built on two supernatural realities. That is faith and prophecy. When you walk in a gift of prophecy, you are called to personally and directly seek God the Father for direction, trusting and knowing that you can and will hear his voice, as Jesus himself testifies in John chapter 10. Now, biblically, prophets often went up to the top of the mountain to hear from God. Isaiah the prophet said, "Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the temple of the God of Jacob. He will teach us his ways so that we may walk in his paths." Now, when you live a life of faith, you are living a life of complete trust in the living God through Jesus Christ. When you live this way, your life is based on waiting for him to move according to what he has promised. Faith, according to Jesus, is also responsible for moving mountains. So God will always accomplish what he tells you he will do. He's worthy of our trust. And you can literally be at complete rest and peace when you live in faith with him, because you know that what he says is being done is what is being done. Jesus himself even, who lived a life of perfect faith, was so confidently at rest in the reality of his Father that he told his disciples, "Hey, let's go get in this boat and go to the other side of the lake." Because his Father had told him, "Hey, get in this boat and go to the other side of the lake." And to Jesus, the word of the Father was as good as done. Get in the boat and go to the other side of the lake meant we're getting in the boat and we are going to the other side of the lake and we will arrive at the other side of the lake. So when they got in the boat and this crazy storm came up, Jesus was literally asleep on a pillow on the back of the boat. And all the disciples, when they woke him up, they're like,
"We're gonna die, save us, what are you doing?"
And he wakes up, he rebukes the wind and the waves, and he turns to his disciples and he says, "O ye of little faith." You only have to do what God says you need to do. Now, at the intersection of faith and prophecy, I believe, is the reality of dominion. And as one writer I so love on Substack has astonishingly said, he said that he believes dominion is the telos of redemption. Say it again, dominion as the telos of redemption. Telos, like literally the namesake of telosity, the intended end for which something was created. Redemption, the work of redemption that God has done through Christ, the intended end, the purpose of him redeeming us, was not only to save us from sin and bring us back into right relationship with him, but the reason we've been brought back into right relationship with him is so that we can function in the earth in dominion as sons and daughters of the Most High God. Whoa. Now, I didn't want to be delusional about all this stuff, so I asked some people to help me out. When I had an Instagram account, I reached out to everyone who followed me personally, asking if they'd be willing to help me with a branding experiment by answering a few questions. Since I knew more of what was behind Telosity than anyone else, I wanted to know if other people could get a sense for what God had placed in my spirit about Telosity simply through the branding and the communication of my profile on Instagram at the time and my website. Like, was I just in my own little world, or was there actually a measurable impact of all of these intangibles, that this essence behind what God, I believe, has given me to share with others? So to the people who responded and said, "Yeah, sure, I'll help you out," here is what I asked them. Number one, how would you describe the difference between reading about something and actually standing in the middle of the experience of that thing which you've read about? For example, like, it's one thing to read the words mountains on a page or a screen, and it's another thing to actually be standing in the middle of Yosemite National Forest or the Rocky Mountains, right? Okay. Number 2, is there a recognizable sense to you, like experientially without words, of having arrived at a place that was once only an idea or words to you? And if so, how do you know? Number 3, when you visit someone's website or online presence, are you impacted more by what they write or by what they communicate without words in the layout, the color, the vibe, etc.? Are both important? If so, to what degree? And can you sense from where someone is writing or designing? Number 4, what do mountains mean or communicate to you? What about blue colors? And lastly, number 5, if you'd be willing, could you tell me what these things convey in the context of my current Instagram profile and on the Thås website? That's all the information that these folks got from me, just these questions. Here is an amalgamation of the answers that I got, which I believe stand as a good representative of all the answers that I received, which they had submitted. So answer to number 1. They said, reading mostly keeps the thing at the mind and imagination level versus being immersed in the actual experience of the thing, which feels complete and fulfilling. So there's a tangible sense of that. Number 2, I asked, is there a recognizable sense of having arrived? Answers were yes, and often described as something called marvel. Number 3, were you impacted more by what is written or the vibe of something? And they said, well, it depends on the brand, but to have one, like the words, without the other, like the vibe, is like having good words but bad body language, or vice versa. So there was a notable difference, basically, between if the words said one thing and the vibe said another thing, that was obvious. And if the words said one thing and the vibe matched that and the whole thing was coherent, that was also extremely noticeable. There's geese. I don't know if you can hear that. Mountains, number 4, in general, they reminded people of the glory of God, peace, mustard seeds of faith, fortitude, protection, overcoming, and victory, freshness, the feeling of individual smallness along with God's vastness, a sense of adventure or like an invitation to climb something, a sense of stability or strength, a high perspective, freshness, like fresh air, a bird's eye view, a horizon of something, a mysteriousness, like a fog, novelty, significant advance, adventure, but simultaneously quiet, a place of both extremes simultaneously, encouragement, simplicity, majesty, a defined sense of being, trust, awe. Okay. Blue colors in general, people said that they communicate to them honesty, stillness, soothingness, sometimes melancholy depending on the color palette, peacefulness, a sense of home, ease, rest, expansion, the calm side of the extremes, assurance, confidence, sobriety, freshness, elegance, freedom. Okay, and all of that, after having done all that, I said in context of the Thås website, and what does all of the branding communicate to you? And they said, trust, serenity, mature and significant while simultaneously calm and inviting, ethereal, professional, depth, sincerity, straightforwardness, trustworthiness, steadiness, wholeness, balance, quiet, and strong simultaneously, not being in the way, but something that has been deliberately placed in my path for me to understand the magnitude of something. Now, I read all this and I was like, I mean, that's very, very kind words. And it was just so remarkable to me that so many of these intangibles, these essential things, came across so powerfully and consistently among all those people that I asked that responded. So here's the moral of the story, okay? I'll read it to you in a verse from Psalms. It says, "Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret when men prosper in their ways, when they carry out wicked schemes." That's Psalm 46:10. Basically, do not join the marketing and branding strategies of the world just because they seem to be successful. Truly be still before the living God and let him lead you. You don't have to succumb to the temptation of the world's ways of doing business just because it seems like it's what works, or it's the easy way, or it's the way you should do things. Okay, you as a person of faith in Christ have someone that the world knows nothing about. You can ask him about anything, and he can help you with anything, even marketing and business and branding. Now, everything I just shared with you, this was all downstream from just asking God, hey, what's the brand of this Telocity thing that you're talking to me about? Okay, I didn't try and fabricate all this from the ground up and create this cool looking thing. Like literally God just said, it's this, mountains, this and that and whatever. And then he revealed the rest by his Spirit. Also, everything I just shared is a part of the story that I share in the Firm Foundations Branding course, which me and my wife created for faith-based business owners and creatives, which is linked below in the description. I do currently work with men, both as a faith coach and a web designer. So if you'd like to speak with me personally about working together, you can send me an email at the address also linked in the description of this video. And if this video was a breath of fresh air for you, you're on YouTube, you know what to do. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button to receive more of this kind of thing in the future. And until then,